This is Bassy Bob Presents Live, hosted by Oscar-nominated multiple Grammy Award winner Bassy Bob Brockman. Hear the stories behind the music and artists that made our lives, from the producer who made it happen. And here's Bassy Bob.
Hello. Are you there? I think we're on. I think we're on right now.
Are we really?
And I ain't seen the light of day since. That's not important. It's been long.
We're not on. We're on.
And I was feeling Whitney, me, my homie, sip to Houston. Cars and clothes, thought I was winning. You know I was losing. Told me to wake up on my clock, always stays on snooze. And now I'm done. To reach their own end, find peace in knowing ain't always broken, but here's to open, show no emotions against your golden, just die as hard as you can. You don't need a friend, boy, you're the man. Ooh, 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 ooh,
Good evening, everybody. I'm sorry we're late. Again, we had copyright infringement problems with Facebook and Instagram, which has been an ongoing problem with. We're still trying to figure out, given that it's a show oriented around music, how we can play music. We have tried a lot of different permutations of trying to figure out how to license the music that we're playing to do an internet broadcast show. We still haven't figured it out. But that said, I am super excited tonight to welcome somebody who 6 months ago I did not even know was a complete stranger on the internet, and we actually met on Instagram from a message that just came out of nowhere in the middle of the night, and it has led to a long and thus very fruitful collaboration between producer and artist. I am so delighted to bring, ladies and gentlemen, from New Jersey, Goldie Scott.
Hello, everyone. From New Jersey, yes, that is my identifier, unfortunately. I'm sorry for the lag. There's probably going to be some technical difficulties because technology always just fucks with me, but that's fine.
It doesn't fuck with much as it fucks with me. I mean, we're just, we're thwarted every time we try to do one of these TV shows because, your bandwidth gets throttled in your neighborhood, and the next thing you know, your show is breaking down. But we are undeterred, and we are going to have a great conversation tonight. So awesome. I thought that we would sort of start the show out by explaining to your audience the gestation of Goldie Scott name, which is now your artist name that you're using for all your releases. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. This story is probably going to take up like most of the time we have because it's a really thick one, like 3C's kind of vibe. But basically, I had no identity in high school. Like I'd always written songs, but I didn't really know who the fuck I was. And I think as soon as I got to college, I really started to realize, okay, like I want to do music and I want to like pursue it full time, but I still wasn't because I was in a sorority and I was just living an entirely different life. And I didn't know what my stage name was going to be, which was holding me back because I didn't want to do gigs like as who, Stephanie Weiss. Like it just doesn't feel special. And I didn't want to have the name that other people gave me. Like I wanted to give myself the name and decide who I was going to be. So I started calling myself Steph with an F because I was like, fuck that. Like they gave me a PH. I wanna do something different. So I made it with an F, and it still wasn't quite, catching on. So I remember vividly being in a library at Syracuse with like one of my best friends trying to come up with a way to make it more like appealing. So we had Steph with a question mark at the end of it because I couldn't seem to figure out who I was. And I was like, all right, that's weird. And we had like all these logos we were making, and none of it was clicking. And then as soon as I did American Idol, which even though honestly I have an interesting story with that, it wasn't the right moment for me in my life, but I learned so much being around so many incredible, talented artists. I realized that like, okay, they're really dedicating their whole lives to this, and like they're every single day they're waking up and making music. I need to do that. And they all kind of like knew who they were, but I still wasn't really sure. And I was still at Syracuse. So I was like, okay, I need to really figure out who I am. And I took a semester off and I was interning at an independent record label and in the city. And I went, I think 2 or 3 times a week, and it would suck because I would go in and I was like working for all the people who were doing what I wanted to do. And I was like, wow, like, why am I not like doing this? And my boss was the owner of the record label, and I was like, the first thing I said, I was like, I make music, like trying to get signed by this guy. And he was like, well, what's your stage name? And I was like, Steph. And he's like, oh, that's interesting. And he looked it up on Spotify right in front of me. He's like, well, there's a lot of Stephs. And I was like, okay, I guess that's fine. He's like, you should probably do something that's more like, that pops more. Like, do you have any other ideas? And I was like, well, I actually do have another idea, but I think it's kind of weird. So like, I had this idea behind Goldie Scott for a while, but I was like, who am I to just all of a sudden call myself this name and have people just like think that it's me? Like Lady Gaga did it, but she's fucking Lady Gaga. But then at the same time, it's like, she's only Lady Gaga because she decided I'm Lady Gaga. And then everyone's like, oh shit, that's Lady Gaga. So basically, Scott is the street that I grew up on and the house I still live in New Jersey. And Goldie kind of symbolizes who I feel I am. It means a lot of things, but basically I'm a very old soul, and it symbolizes my free spirit, who I truly am. And Scott is basically, it's a very, generic last name. And it also symbolizes like feeling trapped and like your parents telling you how you're supposed to live your life, and society telling you, have a regular job, don't like step out of the norm. And Goldie was this inside feeling like, I want to go to the West Coast. I want to wear what I want to wear. If I want to like tattoo my face, I will. I want to make the music I want to make and live the life I want to make. And I think Goldie Scott is just really combining the light and the dark inside of me and realizing that they both make up who I am. And I didn't really come out as Goldie Scott until the pandemic happened. And I think that there was just this sense of like, okay, well, if life is really this, fragile, and you never really know what's going to happen. Ooh, sorry. If you never know what's going to happen, then you better, fucking do what you want. And if people don't like it, well, I don't know, unfollow me, I guess. But
so what was the turning point where you actually, accepted Goldie Scott as your namesake? Was it when you decided that you were going to go to Berklee School of Music, or when you started working on your own stuff, or what was the turning point?
No, Berklee was like, it's a side hustle. I mean, I'm grateful I'm able to do that, but it's definitely, that was like a last minute thing. I think I really accepted myself as Goldie when people started calling me it, like that I would randomly talk to, and like I would have people reach out to me after I put out Desert Queen and say like random people I've never spoken to saying, hi Goldie, I really like your song. And, I was just like, wow, that's crazy. How did these people find me? And I think, my dad had said to me when I originally told him, I'm going to change my name to Goldie Scott, he was like, that's not being authentic to who you are. that's not your real name. You want to be like, you pride yourself on being so real, but that's not who you are. And I realized, well, you know what? It is who I am. And it's who I really feel like I associate with. Like, for example, I'm from New Jersey, but I don't associate it with it that much. It's not really who I am. So I don't know. I guess after I put out Desert Queen, even though it's not necessarily my favorite song of mine, and I've evolved quite a bit since, I think that was like, I put my feet in the sand and I made my imprint, like, this is who I am. And for a few months before, I knew I was going to do it, but that was like, okay, hi world, this is me, welcome.
Oh, okay. So, so the thing I noticed about you, I mean, maybe we should just talk a little bit about how we met, because it's kind of a unorthodox partnership, to say the least.
Yeah,
you're 20, I'm 58. You're just starting your career. I've been doing this for 35 years, and I'm grizzled and haggard. Yes.
So what are you asking me? Okay, the story of how we met and all that. Okay, so I was at my lowest in the sense of, it was COVID, and I had so I have a 17-year-old producer, Luke, who some of you may know, and he honestly just put so much of his time and really gave me like faith that I could do music. But at the same time, like, him and I are both very young, didn't have that much experience, and I have a fuck ton of music and a lot of songs, and I needed a lot of them recorded. It takes a lot of time. And I was like, well, I don't have a team. What am I going to do? And I was supposed to be in California shooting a music video, and it didn't end up working out, and everything just felt like it was going wrong. And at this one point, like, I was crying, I was really upset, and I just like was looking through different producers and stalking people. You know how you get lost in stalks on Instagram, unfortunately. But and I found Bob out of absolutely nowhere, and I was like, oh, Grammy nominated producer, sounds cool. Checked out some of his what do you call that? What's the word I'm thinking of?
Curriculum.
Yeah. The things you've done, and I was like, wow, okay, this guy's incredible. And so I just DM'd you, and I was just like, listen to my music, like, let's work together or something like that. I don't even remember what I said. June 22nd though, June 22nd, a very, very important day. And then basically we just hit it off right away. We started FaceTiming every day, and at first I had to kind of like beg him to work with me. I was like, please, like, you don't know, I have so much, like, please just like produce my music, kind of thing. He wanted me to write for somebody else, and I was like, no, like, produce my music. And finally, after several FaceTimes of showing him stuff, he was like, okay, fine, like, I like it, and I flew to New Orleans in August, and I really took a leap of faith, because you could have been weird, you could have been super strange, but you weren't strange at all. And you're like my uncle, brother, cousin, dog, like, child, like, I don't even know. It's just a really wild relationship we have.
How long did you stay the first trip?
I stayed for 1 week, and I met people down there and wrote with people and really experienced New Orleans for the first time in my life. And New Orleans has deeply impacted me and the way that I write now, for sure.
Yeah. So I guess the thing that I noticed when I first started listening to the demos that you had sent me was that there was a maturity, and there was a weight, and there was a gravity to what you were doing that was different than the normal poppy kind of stuff that I see every day on TikTok and Instagram. And I was very I was very curious as to why you were so accomplished as a songwriter. So I guess that the next question I would pose is how long have you been considering yourself a professional songwriter, and how did the songwriting thing start in the first place? Let's just start at the beginning, when you were a young person.
So I have a big background. My whole family, they're all musicians. My dad's a bassist, and my mom sings, not professionally, but she's a great singer. And like, my great aunt was an insane singer. We just have a very rich history which we can get into more later. But I knew that music was like always in my blood. From the moment I could talk, I was singing and making up bullshit. But when I was 6 years old, I vividly remember Miss Myman was my first grade teacher, and we did poetry month. And like this was my first time even learning about poetry, because like I was just learning about words for the first time, you know. And I was like obsessed with poetry from then on. I loved how things rhymed, and like you could just describe how you're feeling. And I got published in like the kids like poetry book, and I thought it was the biggest deal. And from then on, I was just always writing something, and I was also singing other people's songs. Like I was obsessed with Lizzie McGuire and Miley Cyrus, which I still love to death. But I was really, they were very separate entities. They were not combined at all. And then when the first like song I actually remember writing on the piano, I was in 6th grade. I was 11, about this guy, Justin Allen. If you're there, he's not there, but it was about him. He broke my heart because he didn't love me. And that was the first song I ever wrote about him. It was about a guy. And then they just started actually getting a lot more mature. I think because I started early, and I got a lot of the like lovey-dovey stuff out of the way early on in my life. And then high school hit, and I actually started picking up the guitar. And you know, I started writing a lot about like my fear of having a 9-to-5 job. And I've always been like a very emotional person, super sensitive, and my family will say that I'm oversensitive, but you know, I would rather feel a lot than feel nothing, personally. And it has helped me write a lot of things. I think the reason why I'm a mature songwriter is because I feel things so thoroughly. And the older I got, the more I realized like I'm having all these existential crises. I don't know, crises. I don't know. Whatever, one of those words. And I think that it's just all my thoughts. I'm constantly thinking. My brain never shuts up, which is why I have so much to say. Like I'm just always thinking, I'm always talking. And I think that writing is definitely like the way that I can release that, you know, and really get out. Yeah.
I think that you shared a couple of videos with us from some early experiences. I think you told me a story about you and your sister going to a concert when you guys were young.
Yes, I've always been. My sister and I both. She can sing as well. We both, you know, have just always been obsessed with music. And you know, like when we were younger, it was like, oh my God, these celebrities, these icons. We just wanted to be like those people on stage. And then for me, it really grew into something more than just like, oh, I want to be famous. Oh, I really want to like do something meaningful and like help people with my music. But the first concert we ever went to was a Hilary Duff concert. And that we begged my parents to go to that concert for like a whole year. And I was 6 when we found out. Jackson, if you want to play the video of my sister's reading the ticket, and I wasn't sure what was going on, but it's pretty funny.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready for this. I haven't seen this video yet.
Oh, I scream at the end. It's such a delayed reaction. It's so funny. Is it working?
Yeah, it's gonna take a second.
Okay. Wow, this internet is just something else.
No. Cameras, no. Recording. What is that? Say right there. So what is that say right there? What do you think this is? Hilary Duff ticket for Hilary Duff concert. So where are we going now? Hilary Duff concert? Yes. In Pennsylvania, far away, in an arena.
Oh man.
Okay. So, so obviously there was a great deal of enthusiasm there early on.
Great deal of enthusiasm. I think I was really just copying my sister. Like my big sister was obsessed with all these celebrities and these singers, and I was just like, oh, like I wanted to do whatever my sister wanted to do. So I think her dream first was like to do music, and then or to to do something like this. And I was like, wow, I want to do that. That looks cool. And I mean, we became obsessed with concerts after that. My parents would like surprise us. We went to an Avril Lavigne concert, and I fell asleep because I was so young. I don't know why I thought I could like go rage at a concert at like age 7, but
So you went to
I did.
the Duff concert when you were 6?
I went to the Hillary Duff concert at age 6. Yes, I don't remember it obviously, but
Incredible. Well, I think, it speaks to, your parents have a lot to do with, I think, the creativity that both you and your sister are displaying in your adult lives. I think there was a lot of encouragement there early on.
I definitely agree. And I think, my dad, he's a jazz bassist. And although we don't always get along because we're very similar people, he has definitely influenced the kind of music I listen to. Like growing up, I would constantly hear the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And that was the first song I ever played on the guitar was Other Side. And I realized like there's more than just what you're hearing on the radio and like the rap music and the pop music. Not to say that it isn't, some of it's not good and I don't enjoy it, but it really opened my eyes to hear like rock music and like.
Hold on, Steph. We're literally we're offline. The video just dropped out.
No way.
Yeah, but the audio is on. But let's take a break real quick. I need to reset that because Zoom got lost. Is it okay?
Oh, so Zoom basically failed on us.
Yes, it was failing anyway. I'm going to go ahead and take a break, my friend.
Okay, yes, Steph, just take a break. You could text everybody on the live broadcast that we'll be back. We'll be back on in 2 minutes.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
No problem.
Red Rocks.
The fuck? Oh, the mix is killer.
Crazy. Future is coming, my friend.
This is incredible.
I think if there's a way that people from all around the world can immerse themselves through the wonder of technology and share and perhaps a live experience, that's pretty incredible.
This is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my fucking life.
Like JB's right here.
Like on the stage.
I think it would be super cool to be able to objectively see a concert from the best seat of the house.
And it's all the way around. Wow.
Oh, turn it up. How do you turn it up?
Sorry about the delay, everybody. Tonight has been a night of impeachments, low bandwidth, and low expectations. But here, I'm so excited and so enthusiastic about having this creative conversation with you about this process of discovery that we've gone through really over the past 6 months. But I think that we could talk really about the last 2 months. Basically, Steph made the decision to come down here and stay at my house in the apartment in the back, which was a huge leap of faith to take. And we had an extraordinary experience together creatively. And I think that you probably speak to a couple things, but I mean, I think just initially just talking about the creative process, and some of these songs just came about 5 minutes after you saw something, right?
Yeah, I think that I write my best songs when I'm not trying at all. Like a lot of times I'll be sitting in the car or I'll be driving and I'll have to pull over because I have an idea. So I'll just like pull out like a voice memo, or if I'm in the shower. But one of my favorite songs that we're working on right now is called Lose. And it was totally not something we were planning on working on. It didn't exist actually. And Bob and I were watching a show called Unorthodox on Netflix, and I was very triggered by it. And I wrote a song at 4 a.m. within 5 minutes. And it's like the next day we recorded it and it's basically done, and we worked on it for a few days. And it was just like so much energy, because I think when you're really passionate about something and you have an intention for writing, and you're not just, well, what sounds good? Or like, what do you think people are gonna like relate to? I mean, I understand that method of thinking as a writer. And of course, like when it becomes a career and you have to think, how am I going to put food on the table? You start to, think about it in that way. But in my opinion, if you don't have a story or a concept for the story and like an intention, it's never going to be a great song. It could be a good song. It could be catchy. It could be, a #1 hit, but I don't think it's going to stand out unless you really like have some sort of connection to it, or put yourself in that zone. Even if it's like a story that's not necessarily about me, if you step into someone else's shoes and you write it from their perspective, that's super important. And just, it's moral of the story is that it's about the story. And I find that things just come to you randomly, but nothing in life is random. Everything happens for a reason, and I truly believe that. So I think that the right song comes to me at the right moment. I'm always thinking, well, how can I turn this into a song? Every life lesson. But I've recently been expanding and doing like collaborations with people. But my whole life I've written solo, and I've always really perceived myself as a writer, not a performer. Which is something that I'm still working on day by day, but I'm slowly figuring out like, what is my vibe? What is my identity? What is my sound? What is my style? Everything like that. And I mean, I'm a human, everything changes day by day, but I think like learning how to write with other people is just, it's like going on dates with people. It's not always going to be the right fit. And you might argue with someone and they say, well, this word's better here and that one, which is, I mean, I've never been so good at like listening to others, but I'm working on it, because it's very important to know how to collaborate and compromise, So I've definitely gotten like the chance to write with some really incredible people in New Orleans. Yano, Andrew Yanofsky, who's a beast piano player and songwriter. We wrote a really dope song. And I also had the privilege of writing with Andrew Campanelli from the Revivalists, which is one of my favorite bands. And a year ago I saw them or a year and a half ago I saw them on tour. And then, a month ago I was writing with this guy, which is just fucking crazy. And yesterday we did a writing session. So it's really crazy to see like how the world evolves and changes and things happen that you never would have expected.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a rite of passage in your music career. When you actually find out that you're going to be in the studio the next day with one of your heroes. I mean, I've been through a lot of experiences like that, with people who have 30 years on me, who have, done extraordinary things. And it's been kind of an interesting generational experience, for me to kind of watch you go through that process, and I know that that you've really evolved a lot, in my opinion, especially in the realm of vocal production, which I don't think you necessarily had an idea of what vocal production was like when we started really working intensely 2 months ago.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really. I had been recording, but it wasn't really. I'm one of those people who doesn't really like technology, and I think that it really intimidated me to record music. And there's so many buttons, and it's just so confusing. And I think that like living next door and waking up every day with like the intent, oh, we're gonna record. And I knew that I didn't have to focus on like all the production stuff, but I just decided like I want to, I should really be learning from this guy who has, a lot of years on me in the industry, and also just this is a great opportunity to like shadow a producer. And I really picked it up way quicker than I had thought, and I realized I have an ear for production, even though I'm not necessarily always the one pressing the buttons. I know like what a lot of times what instruments belong and where, or like, oh, put this melody here, put this melody there. And I'm very picky, as a lot of artists are. And I think that part of my personal liberation is just like being able to do everything on my own. Not everything on my own. I'm never going to be able to do everything on my own, but having the ability to, be in my own little studio and drop something down and write it and record it. And, I think that having to rely on someone else for everything is just not realistic. And it's something that I just couldn't do. So yeah, I think I've learned a lot about production, but I still have quite a bit to learn. So yeah, we'll be working together for a good amount of time, I would say. I don't think I'm ready to ride solo just yet.
Right.
But
so why don't you just talk about a couple songs that we're going to preview tonight? And I mean, you did mention Loose, and how Loose was deeply inspired by this unorthodox show that you saw, but I think also the other song, Little Robots, was inspired by another piece of filmmaking. If I remember correctly.
Yes. So I have written a lot of songs in this pandemic, and a lot of it has been triggered by, sad or anxious emotions, but they've led to great songs. I think so. I hope you guys think so. And so a lot of what I've been writing about is kind of the state of the world and where we're at. And I watched a movie called The Social Dilemma, which I'm sure a lot of people have seen. And I like immediately like ran to my piano. I was like, oh my God, like I can't. And I mean, a lot of it was just reiterating things I knew, but I didn't want to think about, because I'm like, okay, I wake up in the morning, I go on my phone, I go on Instagram, I go on Snapchat, I text people. And it's like, it's so, you don't even realize how much time is passing when you get into it, like a deep stalk of people. And it's like, it's very unhealthy. And I think that like 3 or 5 corporations, are basically capitalizing off of us, surrendering to like this ridiculous thing, but it's also helping us do so much. So the song is called Little Robots, and it's about how basically we're becoming wired. And the song starts off, kind of like foreshadowing the wildfires in California. And the words are, don't you smell the fire, smoke keeps getting higher. Because it's not just about that, it's also just like shit is getting bad. And like, now that we can't do things in person, everything has become digital. And it's like, even after the pandemic, my biggest worry is, well, will we ever return to like just physical things, like having a conversation with someone in person? So I think like this song was just my way of like fighting back in a sense, and saying like, I know what's going on, I'm not going to take it, even though I still do a little bit, like we all do. Yeah, so that's what Little Robots is about. If you want to play 45 seconds to give.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing this. Little Robots.
Don't you smell the fire? Keeps getting higher. Wired, you've been wired. That's how you got hired. Lies, there are liars, and that's how you retired. With money in the bank.
And there you go. You're on.
It's delayed. Okay.
Yeah, you hear me?
Yeah, you guys are good.
So I'm anxious to hear like kind of like some of your goals and expectations of what would you like to be doing in the next 6 months? What would you like to see happen? What would you like to achieve next year with all of this music that we created?
Well, I mean, I feel like I've been waiting to put things out for so long, but I realize it's quite a long journey. Things will just happen very quick. But I really just want to share everything I've been working on. I feel like I've just been like, carrying a child. Like nobody's gotten to meet my child yet, and like he's cute as fuck. Like I don't know. Like I want people to meet him, and I think it's just like I think I'll feel a sense of like relief. I mean, I really hope people like the songs, and obviously, like numbers and stuff like that. Every artist has to think about that, but that's the ultimate goal, is that I get a positive reaction, and the music I'm making isn't just another thing that people are hearing. If it did get popular, it's not just another song that people are hearing. Like I just think that the music on the radio, or a lot of the stuff that's very popular now, it's kind of like the same thing over and over again. And I really want at least the themes and the concepts to like really impact the way people think and shift their perspective about something. So I mean, I make all different types of music, and I'm working on a folk acoustic album kind of, and I'm also working on like soul R&B stuff, and then I have a pop record which is going to be first. And I think that my goals are for people to realize that I'm not trying to be one genre. And I really want to have in the next year people to be able to see all the different sides of myself, and the kind of music I make. I mean, that's not going to happen all the different sides, but at least get, somewhat of an understanding that I'm not just trying to do one thing. I'm trying to do like everything, and really, understand my vision.
I mean, I think in addition to that, what I've picked up is that you don't want to do meaningless pop. You want your music to be broad-based. You want a lot of people to hear the music, but I think that there's a social component. And by social, I don't mean social media. I mean social awareness, that, when you see something that you think is wrong in society, you feel a need to write something about that. And I think that harkens very much back to the 60s and the 70s, the first social consciousness movement. Now we're in the second social consciousness movement.
Yeah, I think that people are starting to wake up because they've had so much time on their hands to do nothing but except research what the fuck's going wrong in the world, and also realize like what is going on. Like this is insane. And I think that I definitely, as an artist, the only thing you really can do is try to like address the situations so that people who are maybe not woke can wake up a little bit, or people who know these things already can be reminded of them and feel like they're not alone in the situation. I guess every song is different. Like I think that also I'm a reminder. I want to be a reminder to people that like you don't have to just be one thing or feel one emotion. I write like a lot of sad songs that are like super fucking emo, and then I'll write like a hot girl Meg moment where I'm just like, okay, like who is she vibes. And I think you don't have to feel like a confident badass every day. You can be really sad, and there's nothing wrong with that,
So what about Rah Rah? Can you talk about Rah Rah a little bit? Let's cue that up.
Rah Rah is one of my faves, and I don't know when exactly I wrote that. Definitely during the pandemic, and it was another moment of me. Oh, it was in June when everything was going on, the protests, and I was just so agitated by everything and scared and just upset that things were just not fair and the world was just falling apart, it felt like. And I also felt like there was a lot of fake news. Like we just weren't getting the full story, and I still feel this way. But I think that to me was like, I know that what I'm seeing on the news a lot, like can't be accurate. And it was kind of my way of like fighting back. But yeah, I think we should just play it and it'll speak for itself.
Okay, so this is Rah Rah.
I was feeling wicked suddenly, hated to listen, played it safe, but now I'm switching. Being plain is an addiction. We've been taught to make decisions based on people in position and their organized convictions, cause our mind is just a prison. But I won't take it no more. No, I won't sit and ignore the things they had in the drawer, hoping nobody explored. No, I won't sit on the truth they filter out of the news. Our choice, but they always choose. Do you think that we are fools? We'll be breaking all the silence, taking down the diamonds. You're gonna hear the sirens go. We'll be canceling the violence, standing tall united. You're gonna hear the sirens go. Da-di-da-di-da-da.
Here you go. You're live.
And we're live.
Yep.
So Gold, let's talk about sort of like near-term things, like what's happening right now, and what are you going to be working on in the next month or so?
Okay, so I'm in New Jersey, unfortunately, but I'm actually very grateful to be with such loving parents and have so much opportunity. And I'm doing Berklee School of Music online right now, which, like I said, is kind of a side hustle, and we're just doing that to, like, you know, quiet my parents a little bit. But
you've advanced tremendously because of your time at Berklee School of Music, and I know you hate doing schoolwork, but it's for your benefit. Everything that you're learning at school, you're going to use at one point or another in your career. I think it's a better thing than you realize.
I think a lot of benefits to it, but at the same time, I think that I learn more by experiencing things in person, by doing. Like, I'm one of those people, like, you can read me the same thing 12 times, but like it just doesn't really click. Like, I need to like do. So I think like doing and meeting you and having that opportunity has been like one of the most beneficial things to me, for sure. But my plans are to release a few songs soon. Release a single hopefully in either end of February or beginning of March, but I'm hoping end of February. And I want to start doing, you know, more live streams where I'm singing and getting more comfortable playing live, because, you know, it's really hard when there aren't gigs, and I'm very much so like a face-to-face kind of person, and I don't really like talking to a phone or talking to a computer, and learning that, you know, that's what I'm gonna have to do and I need to figure it out is like something that's challenging to me. But just being comfortable doing that is something I'm gonna be working on. But yeah, I've been doing writing sessions through Zoom and working with a vocal coach, and really just getting my mental health up and just getting my physical health and feeling good about myself, because that's really important. And like believing in myself every day and meditating and trying to just like take care of myself and, you know, help others and be around my friends. And I think like I've been working my ass off and I need a little break, but now I'm kind of in grind mode again. So I'm going to be finishing recording a few songs, and then I'm going to be starting planning, you know, content and maybe getting some music videos in the works, and just a timeline and realistic goals.
That's wonderful. Okay, so why don't you just set up our last thing and we'll say goodbye for tonight. I apologize to everybody on the show for the technical difficulties and the delays we've had. It's a challenging time to try to do stuff like this, but I really appreciated your time. Thank you so much for being on the show, Goldie. And can you tell me about what this next video is that we're going to see to close out the show?
Okay, thank you for having me. And this video is basically the first video we have of me singing. I was 5 and I'm singing Since You've Been Gone by Kelly Clarkson, and I have a twisty towel on my head. I just got out of the shower, and that's like my signature thing. One day I'm gonna have Goldie Scott twisty towels, because that's my brand. Like, you will always see me in a twisty towel out of the shower. Like, period.
I'm going to buy one for myself, even though there's much hair to cover at this point.
This is, you're taking those pills, right? The vitamins, the hair's growing.
Taking the hair pills. And thank you for saying that on the show. Appreciate that.
It looks luscious. It looks so good. Come on.
Uh-huh.
Oh, he's mad.
Okay, Goldie Scott, since you've been gone. Thank you, Goldie.
Thank you.
I'll see you soon.
She sings since you've been gone.
What's the other Kelly Clarkson song?
I forgot.
Jackson.
I've been a winged and I learned how to fly. Then I just take a wish, take a chance, take a change, and break away. I've been the wings and I learned how to fly. All it takes to laugh at the sky.
Just wanna feel something deeper than this surface bullshit. Been trying to understand what is my place and purpose. Like walking on a tightrope with no end.